Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Sales Scoop. This is a weekly live show for the founders of businesses who want to accelerate how they sell. I'm Alistair Cole. I have a degree in computer science and artificial intelligence and 2 decades experience in sales and marketing. We are live right now on LinkedIn and YouTube to millions of viewers. And I'm delighted to say that my guest today is Rebecca Warwick. Rebecca is the founder of PruneSoftware, a fantastic software platform that automates and streamlines processes for business and accelerates their operations. Hi, Rebecca. Hello.
Hi, Alistair. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. It's great to have you here on the show. I'm really excited to get into your sales scoop, your number one new biz tip you'd share with our audience of founders. So that's very exciting. Before we start, I'd love to get your background and hear how you've got here, what's happening with PruneSoftware, and a little bit about you. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my career at Rolls-Royce and worked in engineering and went from there all around the business, doing business improvement things throughout the supply side of the business. And I came out and went into management consultancy after about 12 years. And I worked in consultancy for quite some time, working with different businesses of different sizes, predominantly in the manufacturing sector. And I realized that software was really expensive. It was often a barrier to people getting good information. Usually they had either a very good software system from about 20 or 30 years ago that was too expensive to change. And if they wanted to change anything or adapt it, it was cost prohibitive. So they'd work on spreadsheets and work around it. Or they'd have a really good account system and then do everything else on spreadsheets. Because again, software is prohibitive. And often they'd have like a CAD CAM, so because they were machining things. So something to do their drawings on and then port their drawings through to their machines. So that would all be quite sophisticated. But it was the operations of the business, which is the things that I often came in and would be asking quite simple questions about that people wouldn't spend any money on. And I realised that there was a great opportunity there to make significant savings if we could build some software that was adaptable, gave people control, and was also affordable. Hence PruneSoftware.
Yeah, and you've got considerable experience in sales, in consulting, and also with software, with PruneSoftware, and experience in other areas as well, in interesting areas. Tell us a little bit about the other hats you wear.
Yeah, so in my private life, I also sit on a couple of charitable boards. One is Warwick Care Services, so that has 13 care homes. I sit on the finance and quality care and practice committees for there. And then I chair the governance, risk and audit committee for the Belgrade Theatre charity as well, which is really enjoyable. I get a huge amount from those roles. Yes.
Yeah, and so I'm really interested to hear your in more detail your sales scoop, because your experience drawing on those kind of consulting and sales and the arts and care homes is a really broad area, and it's interesting that your kind of sales scoop straddles all of them. If people are interested in learning more about PruneSoftware and the automation platform you've built, they can head over to PruneSoftware.com. And read more about it and see some examples. And something that jumped out at me is that your work with a VIP catering firm where you had sped up their quotes by 50%, which is a massive increase. Can you talk about what was the one or two things that you did there with Niche and Bespoke that how could you move it that fast? How do you move the needle that much?
So I'm really sorry, Alistair, I didn't quite catch that.
There's no problem. I asked how are you able to move the needle that much for niche and bespoke? Because 50% increase is massive, and I
Yeah.
imagine something that a lot of people watching or listening would say, I'd quite like some of that. How do you move that needle that much?
Yeah. So it was quite an interesting project. I think first and foremost, of work, and then it's simply by thinking about value and what they do.
No. Rebecca seems to have frozen there. I'm hoping that things will resolve themselves and she'll come back online.
Things.
Right. Little bit of a fly in the ointment, but that's absolutely fine. I'm sure Rebecca will come back online imminently. I shall just remove her there, try and speed things up, and hopefully we'll get to go back and hear from her live in a few minutes. Let's see that now. No movement, which is not great, and nobody likes being frozen there. So I'll take the limelight for a few minutes while Rebecca sorts out her technology, and I don't want to steal her thunder and talk about her sales scoop, which we'll cover off in a few minutes. What I can do is talk a little bit about the show and do some stuff I was going to do at the end, which is talk about previous shows. Rebecca, hello, you're back. We can hear you.
Hello. Yeah, sorry about that. So I'm not
No
sure what
problem
you heard.
at all.
So we were talking about. Oh, I was going to say we were talking
please.
about.
Tell us a little bit about niche. Yep.
How just working with the different businesses. So it was going in and really just discussing with them where their focus needed to be. So we automated all the different processes in the background, and automated things they hadn't thought about. Found new ways of them working, which has sped up what they're doing and has given them a lot more time to do the interpersonal piece, which I think is really important between customers and companies, and also to increase their productivity and their outputs considerably. They're a scaling, growing company, so it's been really helpful for them. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. And so let's move on to your sales scoop and the thing that you would like to share. Sum it up for me.
I think it's really about listening and then bringing some insights that that company hasn't considered. I think one of the ways I do that is by having a really good broad understanding of lots of different business sectors, and being able to then bring specialist knowledge perhaps from one sector into another. So maybe it's something new that they hadn't thought about, best practice in another sector. But really it comes from really listening to them and understanding their business as it is. So really getting under the covers of what they do, how they do it, what they find frustrating, how what they enjoy, where they feel they add value to customers. And then from there, I can identify those points, those pain points, and those things that perhaps they haven't thought about that I can bring and add some value and give them new suggestions. It's just about relationships, really, and just talking.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's about relationships. It's about talking. It's about that connection. That really chimes with the idea of insights. Like, really chimes with me, because I think when you're able to bring a new piece of knowledge or a piece of thinking or an observation or something, it can be very powerful. And you get to watch somebody's face as you're dropping that truth bomb or that insight or something, and often I feel like it's a moment where they're convinced that you could help their business or you could help them personally. But before you get there, what if we were having a business meeting, you obviously have done some work. If we'd met at a networking event, you would know the kinds of people that are going to be there. How do you prepare yourself so that you're able to drop a really strong insight and grab somebody's attention?
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? I think some of it has to be natural and it just has to be off the cuff. But because you don't know where a conversation is going to go, and I think it's really important. That's why I do say, you really have to listen to those conversations and respond to how that person's talking. At the same time, yeah, absolutely. If I'm going to an event, I do like to know who's going to be there, to see if there's anyone that I'm going to want to meet. If a lot of my work comes from recommendations, word of mouth, so my reputation and the trail I leave behind me is really important. I will often, I'll go on their website, I will do a bit of digging, I'll look at their LinkedIn page, I'll find out what they're interested in. I will just try to sort of think about what I've got that I can bring to the table. And I think it's about being different to everybody else, isn't it, in that sense? However, having said that, I do really think that organic conversation is critical, because when you meet anybody, the first things they tell you are the things that are most important to them.
Yeah.
Whether that's going to be talking about their family or talking about their day, if they've had a really bad day and the first thing they want to do is just download about their day, that's what's really happening for them in that moment. So I think it's really important that you listen to that, take that in, and then move the conversation forward. And I don't approach conversations as if they're a sale. I approach conversations to get to know people, and through that process I'll find out the things I need to know.
Yeah, when I think about it, I think about this, that for me, I kind of like have various kind of buckets of things that I've brought with me, research into current news and events in the market, potentially their business. Obviously, if it's networking, it's not, I haven't done research on an individual per se, but I've got all these buckets of information that are pertinent to them, and then they kind of get they kind of get ignored in the human conversation, don't they? Because you're actually just being a human and talking to someone, listening, like you say. And then at some point, there is an opportunity. And so how do you judge when is the right time for you to, switch into bringing value, bringing insight from the conversation? How do you do that? When do you do that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know if there's necessarily a point where I think this is what I want, this is an opportunity for me. Usually it's a very genuine conversation where we're talking, and if I think there's something I can offer or I can suggest, then I'll put that nugget in. And if somebody is interested, they'll start to come back. I like to leave every conversation feeling like I've shared something. I think that's maybe an ethos. And that might be something personal about me. It might be, it's not necessarily something about their business, but it's something that leaves a place to follow up from. And I think every conversation I have is not going to lead to a software sale.
No.
Predominantly, they're conversations. And it might be that I help them on something else, and then next, maybe in a year or 2 years, when they're thinking about software, they know that I'm somebody that they can talk to, that they can trust, who gives them good advice. And it's so in that sense, it's insights about broader things where we can build that relationship and build that trust and that knowledge base. And
how regularly do you feel like it's the right cadence to be bringing these kind of insights? Is every meeting you go to, you've got something new to share, or is it just reserved for the beginning of the relationship?
No, I think I like to feel that I can bring value. That's really important for myself, my feeling of self, I suppose. So every time I go to a meeting, I want to know that I've turned up and I've not just been scent marking. I've added some value, and I've given them something that they've got to take away, and that's, you know, that could be something that's going to help them in their business. It could be leading them towards a software sale. It could be, you know, something that just makes them feel better about themselves, because, you know, being a business owner can be a lonely place. So yeah, just about, I think you need to add value every day, really. Every time you turn up, you've got to be giving something, because people will come back then. You know, it's a valuable relationship for them, isn't it?
I feel kind of conscious and subconscious, like constant pressure to just always be bringing value in everything, right? And quite frankly, I find it is exhausting, but that's how I kind of judge my self-worth in the same way. Like when someone walks away, did I make their life better, either personally or professionally? And I think that kind of thing that we've both got, that spurs us on, well, certainly spurs me on to actually, I really enjoy doing the research. I enjoy having sometimes I can't. Does this happen to you? Do you ever get in a situation where you like, I want to just drop it immediately because I found something amazing and I want to share it, and I'm trying to not jump the gun.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those nice things, though, about building the relationship around it, isn't it? Is that, you know, sometimes it will be something that you come across later on, and it's just a quick, you know, you send someone a quick link, or you link them in LinkedIn on this particular message, or you send them a quick email about something. I think it's quite nice to have that immediacy, because, you know, that just shows that you're genuine, doesn't it? And, you know, I think you know, people buy from people, and you have to build trust, and you have to build those relationships, and that's why those little insights can be really helpful. But yeah, absolutely, I think that need to share is always quite nice, isn't it? And to add value, it shows that you're interested. You know, I'm thinking about you because I saw this, and you know, you're in my mind. I value you, and I think all of those things they're reinforcing, aren't they?
It's almost like the kind of triumvirate, right? If I've had a relationship with you and I've seen something that's happened in the press, which means I'm thinking about you, I've clocked that it works for you, and then I'm sharing and maybe giving my own spin, and it's like that's like the full picture of love for you with a lens. And obviously, if it happened yesterday in the news, that's even better, right, than something that's 12 months old. Where do you go? How do you keep yourself abreast of what's happening? Are you on Twitter 6 hours a day? Do you have, you know, armies of people bringing you printouts like Trump of the latest news? How do you stay on top of it and have those insights?
Gosh, that's really interesting. So I am quite nerdy, to be honest. I am a nerd. I love I do love engineering and technology and those kind of developments. So I try to keep aware of things through reading and research, and you know, I love to fall down a rabbit hole, don't we all? So there is a combination of that. There's also just a combination of meeting and talking to lots of different people. So I keep abreast of what other people are doing and try to link people in my brain. I'm as a curse and a blessing. All our strengths are our biggest weaknesses as well. But I am dyslexic, and so the way my brain works is a bit of a spider's web. I'm afraid. I don't think about things in logical, linear processes. I do kind of explode out in all sorts of different directions, and I think that's really valuable in that kind of cross-connecting, because it often gives me a unique perspective when it comes to discussing problems with people. One of the things I often find with businesses is that they think about their issue, about the thing that's jumping up at them at the moment. So it's always that firefighting process, and they're always looking at solving that problem. And often, actually, when you talk to them, what I discover, partly because I'm coming at it from an external perspective, so I've got, you know, I'm not tainted by what's happening in the moment, but also because the way I think is potentially slightly different. I don't have to go A, B, C, D. I might go A, E, and then back to B. Often it's something completely different. I was talking to somebody recently, and we were talking about automating their processes, and they were telling me that they were spending a lot of money on AI report writing, and they were trying to get this AI report writing, and it wasn't really working for them. The reports that they want to put out are the value of what they do. They're a technical consultancy. That's where their value is.
Yeah.
And when we talked about what we could do, actually there were other processes in the business that were not value added processes. They were just necessary to get things done, where we could automate a huge amount of activity and save them, at least a week, a month, just on that first sweep of thinking, that they could then be spending on writing those reports, talking to their customers, and adding value to their business and their customer offer. So I think sometimes it's having that external approach, and just, what a key insight when we talked like that, and we were like, oh my goodness, that just as a financial thing, that would save us X money a year that we could be plowing back into what else we want to do. So I think sometimes, it's just having a different perspective and being able to link those ideas in different ways. That's quite helpful.
Or maybe having maybe your unique approach to thinking is something that that supports that kind of differentiation as well. You talked, that's really interesting, talking about the insights that came from working with clients and it seems to me like the more I've researched it and automation platforms, it's not just there's a time saving and a money saving, and it's not that the money saving is associated. It's almost like it's a double win from automating these processes. For people watching or listening to the recording or live, is there if they're thinking about automation, they currently know their systems are outdated, they're a bit organic, maybe they're on spreadsheets and they should be thinking about automation, what would be a logical kind of practical first step for them to take about either assessing what they've got or what should they be thinking about? If someone's thinking about a first step in automation, what would you recommend?
Yeah, so if I was going into a company and we were going to have a look and see if there was an opportunity, the first thing I would do is I would sit down and I would look at my time and how I spend my time and how my employees spend their time across the business. Because you need to get the most bang for your buck. That's the first thing I'd say. So I'd look at how time was spent, what activities people were doing. Then my second question are what activities are adding value and what activities are not adding value.
Yeah.
And then my third question is what do you enjoy and what don't you enjoy? And I think it's really important to understand all of those things, because we want to spend time adding value to our business, doing things we love. That's, we don't come to work to do invoicing. Sorry for all those people in accounts, but it's really not my happy place. And so I come to work to do the things I love and where I feel like I'm adding value to other people, and I think most people do. So they would be my first three steps. Where's my time spent? Where are my challenges, and what do I enjoy? What's adding value and what do I enjoy? And then at that point, you can start to say, okay, well, they're the opportunities to improve. What are the technologies available? So if you were going to work with someone like Prune, then what we would be looking at is workflow automation and document management. So we'd start mapping out your workflows with you, working out what we can and can't automate, how we can make sure that those checks and balances are there, because I think sometimes there's that fear that you might automate too much and then lose that personal touch. And I think that personal connection is really important. Also making sure the quality checks are in place. We can do really complex workflows, but think about really sort of complex process maps. We can do all of that within our software, but I think what's really nice about our software as well is that you can edit it. So when choosing a software, I would also just be conscious of A, what's it going to cost to put in the first place, but B, what's it going to cost to maintain? Because there's nothing worse than automating a process and suddenly thinking, actually, we need to change this, this, and this, because that's not how, often when you write process maps with people, they go, this is what's supposed to happen. And you go, okay, and does that happen every time? And they go, oh no, these are the 7 other options that may happen on that one process block just there. So, making sure it's flexible and that you've got the opportunity to change it, and that's all within your gift, I think is really important. I think in terms of data and being able to report on data and gather data as well, I think that's really valuable, and people forget the value of that, depending on what kind of automation you're going to do. So for example, if you're going to be doing things like writing reports and things like that, and you want to automate those kind of processes, then number one, I'd make sure that wasn't something where that wasn't where your whole value was, because you've got to be able to add special insights and special knowledge. That's what people pay you for. But automating the initial sort of thoughts and ideas, that's something that can work really well. Gathering in the initial information and pulling it into a block, there's a great opportunity for that, and then you can decipher what it is you want and add your twist, can't you? I think sales and marketing, there's a lot of opportunity for automation in sales and marketing. Often marketing is an activity, there's so many different styles of marketing, aren't there? But there's some of it can easily be automated to be happening in the background, as long as you have good content. And I think in terms of the sales, sometimes, well, it depends on your company and what your sales model is, but sometimes it's a matter of numbers, isn't it? And there's huge opportunities to be gained through working with sales automation processes.
Yeah, and that combination of humans and machines working together, obviously that's exploded now in the last couple of years through the arrival of this wave of AI tools, and that brings me back to your sales scoop, right? In that moment at the networking event or in that meeting, and you want to bring that value, are you finding your insights that you're able to drop increasingly influenced by the data you get from PruneSoftware or other technical things? How do you marry the kind of human insights and the machine insights? Is that possible, or?
Yeah, I think predominantly my insights are human, in the sense of, technology is great and it's great at doing a lot of things. I'm a technologist in that sense, and I wholeheartedly think people should be adopting more automation. That's why I started Prune.
Sure.
It's our raison d'etre. But the reason we want to do that is to enable you to have a more fulfilling, more effective, more profitable life. So I think a lot of the insights aren't about the software per se or the adoption of the technology. It can be. Sometimes it's like, oh, have you considered, talking to this person about this, or have you considered using this kind of tech on here, or have you thought about automating your sales and marketing? It can be things like that. But often it's about bringing them back to what's important for them and where their current issues are, helping them identify what's really at the heart of what their issues are, or what's happening outside that they could be applying in. But it's usually about a people-focused thing, funnily enough. And the software is an enabler.
Indeed, absolutely, it is an enabler. And if people watching or listening want to know the first steps about how to get in touch with you, obviously they can head over to PruneSoftware.com and check out your website. But how else can people get in touch with you if they've got questions or follow up?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We via the website, you can message us there. You could follow us on LinkedIn. You can message me, Rebecca Warwick, at PruneSoftware on the email, or via LinkedIn. You can DM me. Yeah, happy to have a conversation. Always good to talk.
Thank you. And given we're talking about bringing value and insights in that moment, our new white paper is hot off the press. It's just 12 pages short, and you can get it at theupliftpartnership.com/white paper, or you can scan this QR code and get it now. In terms of future value from the Sales Scoop, a week today, I'll be chatting with Maury Schenk, who's the founder at Playlist Builder, which is a platform that creates YouTube playlists for educators in mere minutes and is revolutionizing the video learning space at universities. And if you're interested in other shows on the Sales Scoop, you can head over to thesalescoop.com and see a range of other interviews. Rebecca's chat with me will be on there very soon, and thanks, Rebecca. I thought that the thing you picked is like something that I hadn't realised how important it was to me in my kind of like professional and personal makeup, and I just love that moment of bringing the insights. So, thank you very much for sharing. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. It's been great to talk.
No, absolute pleasure. Yeah, thanks for your time. Thanks for your expertise. Thanks for being a guest on the show. We'll leave it there. Okay.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye.